What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel, check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on the Minnesota Timberwolves, man, that game 2 against the Los Angeles Lakers. I think Minnesota let the Lakers off the hook. They beat them game 1. Game 2, they could have, it just looked like they didn't come out motivated. They wasn't you know, just looking like they wasn't motivated and they wasn't ready. And for the Minnesota Timberwolves, like they said this was like their season low as far as scoring, you know, and they don't look to be playing like, at least in game 2, that wasn't playoff basketball. You can't have you come out flat like this in game 2, and the Lakers didn't really look sharp either. So if you have a situation where the Lakers didn't look sharp and Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves was not playing, you know, sharp, looking good themselves, this was a very winnable game, in my opinion, for Minnesota. And the reason why this is, and also a reason why people are not really big on Minnesota this year, just because of this type of performance. They had an opportunity, in most people's opinion, to go up 2-0 against the Lakers. But when you see the Minnesota Timberwolves, like I said, score their season low, they had poor shooting. And the reason why it was poor shooting is because they wasn't, that they were spacing on the floor. They wasn't there wasn't a lot of space, a lot of room for Anthony Edwards to operate. They were just like bunched up. It seemed like the whole team was out of sync. And I don't know if that was a coaching um issue or if that was a player issue. I think that it could have been both. I think that a coach would have been able to call a timeout and say, "Look, man, we need better spacing on the floor." But I don't know if he did that or not. And then on top of that, you talking about professional athletes. That's that's basic. Spacing, because if you're trying to operate on the offensive end and you're not getting the proper spacing, then that you're not going to you're going to have a hard time scoring. And with Anthony Edwards out there getting double teamed, spacing is even more important. So if he's getting double teamed and you got poor spacing, then that's almost like, he's playing 1-on-4 or 1-on-3 sometimes, and I just this is why people, are not really big on them. This is why people was predicting that the Lakers could get past them, even though, in my opinion, I think as a team, Minnesota is better. I think as a team, Minnesota is better. They got their superstar Anthony Edwards, and then he has a better supporting cast around him, in my opinion, than Luca. What Luca has around him, I think once you get past Luca and the guy Austin Reeves, then all the other advantages, in my opinion, go to Minnesota. Because LeBron James, now LeBron James played a little bit better defense this game. He was better on the defensive end, and I think the fact that LeBron James, he pushed himself on defense also took away from his game on the offensive end. So it's looking like with LeBron James, you are not going to be able to get you're not going to be able to get a performance where as though like he's going all out on both ends, and that's kind of understandable. You talking about a guy in LeBron James who's been in the league for for 20 years, and so he's going to have to put pick and choose his moments. So defense this game, I think, for LeBron James and his position was more important because at the offensive end, you got you got Austin Reeves, who was a consistent scorer. He was doing his thing. Then you got Luca, who was running the entire offense, and then he was just finding people and putting people in positions where as though that they could score. So you didn't really need LeBron did chip in. I'm not sure how many points LeBron ended up with, right? But you didn't really need LeBron his to put up a lot of points offensively. And so it was a good thing that he did, spend most of his energy at the defensive end, making sure to stay with his man, making sure to close down lanes and block out and get rebounds and stuff like that. So that was good. But again, Minnesota could have put them in a situation where as though they had to use LeBron more on the offensive end. For example, like Minnesota had Rudy Gobert on Luka Doncic, and to me, I didn't understand the strategy of that. Like, everybody know that even though Rudy is a very good defensive ball player, like one on one, he can't do anything with Luka. And so why would you have Rudy time after time on this guy on Luca, and then Luca is just every time his eyes light up when he see this matchup, and he really he had his way with Rudy. Rudy don't have the speed, the lateral movement to stay in front of him. Number one, and then when he is able to body up with him, Luca is just as big as him. Luca he's bigger than Rudy, and he's very good at using his body. He'll bump into Luca and then do his fade away. Luca, you know, Luca was not phased at all by Rudy. And so to me, from a coaching standpoint, I thought that the coach of Minnesota, just one or two times down the court, he should have known that like Rudy was not going to be able to do anything with Luca. And so that's why I said that they gave this game away. They definitely gave it away, and I'm hoping that in game 3 they make an adjustment. Either you have to put somebody on Luca who is fast, which Luca will probably, you got to live with one thing. You got to put somebody on him who's fast and who's able to stay in front of him and make things difficult, make it hard for him to move around the court. Because if you put somebody big on him, he's going to just go around him. So I would put somebody who is fast and athletic on Luca, and just continue to pressure Luca. Make it number one, make it more difficult for Luca to get to get the ball, and make it more difficult for Luca to get the team in an offensive set, and make somebody else have to beat you besides Luca. They just Minnesota just allowed Luca to beat them. And if you're trying to advance in the playoffs, you just can't, you almost like you gave them the game. And to me, when you are in the playoffs and you're not doing everything to win, it looks kind of suspicious to me. And I'm not saying that I think that the game is rigged or anything like that. But it just seems like basic to me. Like, why wouldn't you have somebody faster and more athletic playing Luca and making it difficult for Luca? I would even at times in the game, I would even put Anthony Edwards on him. And that's the thing I don't know about these players today. Like nobody takes it upon themselves to challenge their opponent. They just go along with whatever. Like if you're going to dominate and score at one end, and meaning Anthony Edwards, if he's going to be a big part of what's going on at one end, then why is he not taking on some of the defensive responsibilities of at least slowing down the other play. You got 7 games. This could go 7 games. And so you don't want to give these type of opportunities away, which I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves did. So in my opinion, it's more so about Minnesota giving this game away than it was the Lakers winning. And so moving forward, with that being said, moving forward, if Minnesota play the way that they should have played, or if they play the way that they played in game one, I think Minnesota will still beat this series. They'll still win it, but it's hard to tell. You can't tell with any certainty because a couple of the coaching moves, and the lack of adjustments and stuff like that, just really to me just really seems suspect. And hopefully in game three, Minnesota will be able to get things back on track. And so with that being said, that's my opinion. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I will check you all out in the next episode. Peace.